Something I've noticed is that as a species, we tend to blame victims. Thinking about it logically, it makes absolutely no sense. Most of us today, when we contemplate the word victim, with all the imagery and emotion involved with that word, and immediately get a little sad and think we'd want to help if we came along. So then, why in reality are our actions very much different? Obviously not everyone's the same. If you're going to comment, well, I'm not like that, you can say that because I already know good people exist. I'm talking here about a tendency. Pay attention to the language we've all agreed upon. And there should be little misunderstanding beyond my own grammatical errors and sometimes non-traditional, erroneous way of arranging my words and flubbing over my lips while I'm talking. Let's start off with the most disgusting ways we have, as a species, blamed the victim. Rape. She was asking for it. But not just that, the entire law-making business of early humans made it impossible for women to feel like or be treated as human beings, killing them because they were victim of a man's selfish need to fulfill penis happiness at the expense of pain, terror, and emotional destruction and humiliation of another human being. And threatening them with death only makes it so that they will not want to confess. Patriarchal society much? A human being who will be stoned to death for allowing the rape to have happened to her. Then it comes down to early pregnant mothers too. Some of them are rape victims and are in desperate need of an abortion or have some sort of physical condition that could put them at risk. So what does the faction that claims to be made out of love do in these situations? It rains down hatred for even thinking of extinguishing one organism among trillions inside your body, telling her she needs to deal with this on her own, whether she's monetarily capable or healthy enough or in a good situation at home or not. Whether she's emotionally stable or a complete wreck, it doesn't matter to us. Religion cares not about how we actually feel and think, and that is the true definition of religious love. People in need of help need love, or even better, we don't need love, we need understanding the most. And religion is usually the first one to turn the judgmental shoulder, all based on obsolete beliefs created by humans that didn't know a fraction of what we know now, while claiming to have the monopoly of being loving. And while I do understand that there are the charities and there are good religious people, I'm not blanketing this on every single religious person, but these are the motives behind the religious leaders that have built their churches. That is the truth behind that, anyway. Not all churches, obviously. It's not all of them. I can't say that. I don't want to sound like a Looney-Tune conspiracy theorist. But with the patterns of the way we are, how our monkey tells us to do what we do, and what things that people are willing to do to survive, it's not that far beyond belief. And while it's not an association I want to make lightly, homosexuality is also relevant to this argument. While it's not okay to say they're victims of their orientation, because they're not. They just evolutionarily, they will spread their seed less often. They're not victims of homosexuality at all. They're victims of a society that has built itself on bigoted religious mentalities, so ingrained that the followers of the religion cannot see what a sham it is, and how much hate it actually inspires in the name of love. Facial recognition also is very important to our brains. How many times do you see eyes in inanimate objects? How many times have you found face-like patterns in the leaves of a giant hedge? We look for and are comforted by images of faces with two dots, a protrusion, an opening, and two flaps of skin on the sides in all the proper places. Our monkey says. Anyway, if we see someone with a deformity, facial features altered beyond our visual tolerance, or genetic visual tolerance, perhaps someone lost some fingers in an accident, or walks with a limp, has had half their face burned off, or are generally in pain all day long, and it shows. We get the urge to cringe, keep away, try to ignore, try to make it invisible to ourselves. We tend to want to stay as far away as possible. At least our initial shock reaction evolved to induce that feeling in us. As a strongly visual race, where mere images of real things can inspire emotions all over the spectrum, such as lust, Jessica Rabbit, um, rage, fear, disgust, among happiness, comfort, wonder, and other things that we visually intake. It's no wonder people have strong reactions to how others look. It's self-interest in the survival of... It's based on self-interest in the survival of the species. It is obsolete now, but for the most part. Now, I'm not making any excuses for this. For this next one, I was a heavily bullied child, and the memories still sting. But those of us in the wild who reacted with disgust and fear towards those who were different before there was any medicinal or any real social knowledge would survive longer, because back then any difference was definitely more likely to be detrimental to survival rather than the few mutations that weren't. Excuse me. A difference in the norm often meant contagious disease, the slowing down of the family unit to possible predators. When you're dealing with life or death every moment of every day for the entirety of your life, these things fall under the category of better safe than sorry. So I understand how this process evolved to make a stronger race out of us. But with our society today, using our higher brains, that we evolved to make that process obsolete, with so many people, different kinds of people living all in one giant area, pretty much, or several giant areas, so many different kinds of people. This process becomes obsolete for the most part. At least purely physical differences are understood more as being no one's fault, but we still sort of shy away. Hell, I still get pissed off when I hear someone coughing, don't you? At least just a little. Have that initial annoyance feeling when someone coughs in public. I know that a person coughing is usually not the person's fault, except in the case of those who choose to inhale direct shots of poison into their lungs on an hourly basis, but my inner monkey tells me I should be angry at coughing, and want to get away from wherever it's happening. Same fear and escape possible danger response, is what I presume. Because again, in the wild, before any sort of medicinal help, a cough would mean a spreadable illness, and that may not be that they may not be able to survive, even as simple as the common cold. So those who were angry, put off by things like coughing or hiccuping or sneezing, and who ran away, probably lived a little longer than the ones who didn't. Not to mention those who have some physical harm done to them, like they're missing a limb. And then there's the homeless. We cringe, ignore, step around. In general, I know not everybody, and seem to want them to go away. And while a large number of them did earn their way into that life through addiction or other social ill, there's also a large number of them who are there because they lost their job in bad times and just couldn't get a foot back into the door. Now, either way, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't need help. The way this world is set up, you have to look like you're perfect. You don't even need a job to get any jobs that aren't bottom of the barrel, and even they can be choosy. Who's going to hire the smelly guy who doesn't have clean clothes over the clean-cut teenager, even if the teenager turns out to be a dick, and the smelly guy is a really good worker? And then what about the people that are there because of the addiction, that have sort of plunged themselves down into it? Technically, it is their fault for initiating the behavior, but a lot of the chemical nature of us and the chemicals that they're using cause a stronger addiction than just a mental, hey, this makes me happy. It's more of a, my body is going to die if I do not have this type thing. They need help. It's at that point, it's not their fault. It's not something they can help without help. That's why we're here, why other people are here, because we can help each other. Well, that's not why, but it's a good reason for it. But yeah, so I know I'm creating scenarios and creating arguments out of them. Favorite thing of religious people do that I despise, because I know there are other sides to every story. But I'd still like to help the homeless guy out if I wasn't so desperately clinging to my own anti-homelessness thread. my job. So what do? I ignore, walk past, I don't make eye contact, but I really just do that with everyone, since I'm just naturally really shy. So if you're some minority or a section of humanity that is currently often looked down upon for unjustified reasons, and you're pissed off about that, and you see that I'm shiftily looking away or looking away from you or not looking in your eyes, it's just because I'm shy and I don't like to make eye contact. It's just me. It's not me thinking, ooh, scary different guy, because I do that with regular looking guys, people, girls, whatever. I may try to smile more at the nerdy plus-size ladies, but I can only keep initial eye contact for a split second even with them. Anywho, so what's the common theme among all these situations?